So storytelling, that is what we do here at Female Storytellers. Just a little bit of housekeeping before I launch into my first story, the first story of the night that we'll have here. Please make sure that your cell phones are silenced so that you don't piss anybody off. A note about language and content. There will be some. Take care of yourself if you need to excuse yourself for any reason. There will be no judgment. There will be no repercussions for that. If you hear anything that bothers you, come and talk to me after the show. I'd love to hear about it. And thank you so much to our ASL interpreters who are making our show more accessible. This isn't quite like kindergarten story time. Like if you need to get up and go to the bathroom, you can do that. If you need to go get a drink, you can do that. Please tip your bartenders. It's awesome that you're coming out on a summer night in Tucson because the local businesses need it. I'm trying to be very, what's the word that I'm looking for? Cooperative here. I'm in the spirit of playing like a girl, right? Because playing like a girl is supposed to mean cooperation, not competition. I remember the day that I became a feminist. I was in the 3rd grade. And Ms. Whaley, the band teacher for the district, she came to the multi-purpose room to do a presentation. Because in the 4th grade, if we wanted to, we could start taking band. So I went and, I wasn't really sure that I was going to do band. I wasn't sure that was really my thing. And she played all the different instruments, and she played the flute, which all the girls played flute, and it sounded weak. I didn't like the flute. She played the clarinet, and all the other girls played the clarinet. I didn't like that either, so I thought, okay, well, I guess band is out for me. But then she played the trumpet, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds so cool. And I went home, and I said, Mom, the band teacher came to school today, and she's played all the different instruments that you could possibly play in band, and I found out that the one that I want to play is the trumpet. And she said, that's a man's instrument. I know. I love my mom, but she did say that. And I may still hold a grudge. Now, I'm not saying that I was a good feminist in the 3rd grade. If I was a good feminist in the 3rd grade, I would have just goddamn well played the trumpet, but I was surly, and I pouted, and I said, well, I'm just not going to do band then. And the thing that was appealing to me about band was not really the sense of camaraderie or the discipline that I would have gotten from, rehearsal and practice and all those good things. I liked the idea of first chair. I wanted to be that. But I also knew I wasn't really talented musically, so not doing band was a good choice for me. And I channeled those energies into something else. Spelling bees. I was a big reader, always reading. And so I had a pretty good vocabulary for a 4th grader anyway. And then I would practice with the spelling lists, and I competed, and I loved the thrill of competition. And in 5th grade, I won my school spelling bee. I went to district. And in the 6th grade, I won my school spelling bee, went to district, and won district. I was Barstow's best speller. And I got my picture in the paper. And I knew that what was next was county, then state, then nationals. And probably not international because I only knew how to spell in English, but whatever, nationals. Well, it turned out that Barstow Unified School District didn't have a budget to send traveling spellers to county. And this was before the internet, so I was shit out of luck. There was no more spelling bee for me after the district. I topped out at being Barstow's best speller. Never got a chance to compete beyond that level. So that was rough, and I had to find something else. And, academically, I was pretty competitive, but there were always, a couple people who were a little bit smarter than me. Jackasses. So I found my niche in drama club. Yes, this was a good place for me. It wasn't quite competitive. competitive, except when you tried out for different, parts, auditioning and plays. So there's some competition there, and that was a lot of fun. And something that's actually kind of a funny aside is that I was cast in this comedy, this sort of slapstick medieval-themed comedy, where I was sort of this royal page, and I followed the king around. It was a non-speaking role, but I had a trumpet. And I was supposed to make a holy racket whenever the king was about to speak, to introduce him, and he was supposed to be like, "Be quiet, you," and, everyone would laugh. It was very sophisticated comedy. But I didn't get my hands on an actual trumpet until, the week before we were going to go on. And as it turns out, it's really hard to make a sound come out of a trumpet when you're small and asthmatic. I think my mom might have said, "I told you so." I don't remember that. Anyway, drama club was nice, and when I got to college, I even did theater sports, which again, kind of a competition, but also not really. What was it that Whose Line Is It Anyway said? Everything's made up and the points don't matter. That kind of competition. So I missed the thrill of the spelling bee. There aren't a lot of ways as an adult to get that level of fix. Except one. Does anyone know? Rugby is good, roller derby is good, but if you're more of a brainiac, game shows. Game shows became my outlet in the early 2000s. It started with Win Ben Stein's Money. Does anyone remember that show? It was in the prime, the heyday of Comedy Central. So if you happen to miss this train, Ben Stein, economist, Nixon speechwriter, Republican, star of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? Well, maybe stars a bit, but he's the guy who says Bueller, right? So he's famously monotone. But he's also, competitive and likes to be the smartest guy in the room. And so he did this game show where, it was goofy, and Jimmy Kimmel, a young Jimmy Kimmel was the co-host, and they had goofy category titles. But then in the second round, the two contestants who made it past the first round would compete against Ben Stein for his money. So $5,000 was the pot. And if you won that day, Ben didn't get paid for taping that episode. So you were literally winning his money, and he hated to lose. Well, as it happened in my episode, in round 2, Ben was up against 2 women. Me and Amy, a traffic engineer from Ramona. I worked at Hot Dog on a Stick at the time, and they made a big deal out of this. They had a lot of bits about it, and Ben Stein was like, "Oh, I eat hot dog on a stick. I don't put airs on about what I eat." And he's terrible. Anyway, what happened was, me and Amy kicked Stein ass in round 2. We shut him out, and he actually got on camera after round 2 to say, "This is the first time in 5 years of taping this show that I've ever been shut out of second round." And by this point, Jimmy Kimmel had retired from co-hosting, and it was Nancy Pimental who co-hosted this particular show. And she was like, "Yeah, chicks rule," giving us high fives and everything. And I think that really pissed Ben Stein off. And before he goes to the commercial break, he's going on and on about how great I had done, and how impressed he was with how smart I was, even though I worked at Hot Dog on a Stick. And then he started talking about it again after the commercial break. He gets on camera and he's like, "Here I am, the supposedly smart guy, and these 2 women," you really need to hear how Ben Stein says women, "are kicking my ass all over town," which we're like, "Woo, yes we did." And he talks about how, you never really hear about how some people are really smart out there in America, especially women, but they do exist, and he hopes he never hears about them again. So, stellar comedy, but I've got to say that having a VHS recording of Ben Stein, any conservative Republican, saying on camera on national television how fucking smart I am. Priceless. I didn't win Ben Stein's money. I got beaten out just barely by Amy, who did go on to the final round, and yes, did beat Ben, and yes, he won. And I, in the spirit of playing like a girl, had to go back for more. Now, chasing something like Win Ben Stein's money, what comes next? Jeopardy. Yeah, Jeopardy. I took the test. I got invited to LA to audition. I auditioned. I went on Jeopardy. And they make this huge deal when you get there about how elite you are just by nature of having been chosen, because, I mean, my gosh, tens of thousands of people apply to be on Jeopardy every year, and you made it. And even if you get third place, you'll still get $1,000. And that's pretty good for a day's worth of work. And we're like, oh yeah, definitely. But we're all thinking to ourselves, but I'm going to be the champion. And I'm going to win $20,000. That's what I thought. Actually, I think my number was 35,000, because I think that was about the amount of my student loans. See, I went to college in the 90s, so it was only 35,000 for me. And I didn't win on Jeopardy, you guys. And it's so sad, because after you lose on Jeopardy, you can never go on Jeopardy again. I know, it's devastating. But what are you going to do? I mean, at least you can always say, I was on Jeopardy, which, like, usually wins me, you know, some points. And then when I started in the second year of my MFA program, like, it was the end of the first year, and they were talking about who the incoming students were, and one of the professors was like, oh, there's this really great creative nonfiction writer, she has horses, and, oh, she was on Jeopardy, she was a 3-time champion on Jeopardy. And I threw my pencil down! Because I didn't win on Jeopardy, but I was on Jeopardy, and that was cool. But then, you know, when someone else comes in to your neighborhood and they've won 3 times on Jeopardy. But anyway, she is running for state government in Texas. So if you're a Texas resident, please vote for Erin Zmeter, because we need more women in office, especially smart women who've been on Jeopardy. Anyway, I can't remember where I was going with this story, except that for me, playing like a girl has always meant playing to win. But tonight, thank you, yes, that was the end of my story. Tonight you're going to hear a couple of different stories from a couple of different women about what it means to play like a girl. That's how we do these FIST shows, right? Every month there's a different theme, and everybody submits a story from the theme, and then we pick some stories, we put together a show, and we're going to entertain you, like I hopefully just did. And the great thing about FIST is that we take open submissions from women in the community, and a little bit more about that later in the show. But right now, I want you to get excited and welcome a first-time FISTer.